Ladies and gentlemen, we need to have a serious discussion. We need to talk about something that is ripping our community apart. We need to talk about gangs and our kids. How many more of our sons and daughters do we need to lose? How many more funerals do we need to attend before we wake up and say enough is enough? This is our community. Gangs. I think I know a little bit about gangs. As a young, naive, detached teenager, I fell prey to the gangs, and I came from a very good, respectable family. It all started on the beautiful island of Jamaica, surrounded by golden sandy beaches and palm trees, all that delicious Jamaican food, jerk chicken and rice and peas. Yeah, man, I can smell it now. Only to be told by my parents that we're going to a place that was cold, wet, and gray. A place called Manchester, England. And when I arrived, yes, it was cold, wet, and gray. But they also told me I could eat as much fish and chips and mushy peas as I wanted. It was a shock to my system. It turned my life upside down. I became angry. Everything about me was different. The color of my skin was different. The way I spoke was different. And every day, I had to deal with gang beatings and racism in and out of school. I hated my life, and I wanted it to end. I didn't have any positive, strong male role models in my life, and I definitely didn't have a great relationship with my father. So the local gangs became very attractive. I started hanging out with them. First, it was a source of keeping those bullies away. And then I felt part of something. I felt connected. It wasn't positive, but you know what? It was better than the alternative. By the time I was 16 years old, I was now selling marijuana at school, stealing cars, hanging out at nightclubs. At 17, and what I'm about to tell you, I feel embarrassed and ashamed. I mugged my first human being. This is not what my parents raised. This is not what they taught me. At that age, I have now had 5 youth criminal convictions against me and twice spent time in youth detention. Before I was 18, I was on a rapid down spiral, out of control. My father was going to have a heart attack, man. One day he came up and said, "Boy, get in the car, man." I jumped in that car. He told me he's taking me to see a friend of his, a local mechanic by the name of Carl. We arrived at the garage, and I sat there in the car with my bad wannabe attitude. And this man walked over, and he slapped the side of the car door. Boom! He said, "Get out, boy." Man, I jumped out of that car, boom, faster than you can say boo. Not because I respected him, but because this man was the biggest, scariest man you've ever seen. He must have been at least 7 foot tall and 5 foot wide. Lord, I'm not joking, man. He was a big, scary dude. And I stood there. What he did next was to walk to the front of the car popped the hood, and he started to do something to the engine. And he turned to me with his deep Jamaican accent that could melt an iceberg. He said, "Boy, roll up your sleeves now." Man, I rolled up my sleeves all the way to my shoulders and beyond. And I stood there waiting for the next instruction. He said, "Come over here." He started telling me about how the engine works. He started telling me about this part of the engine is connected to this part of the engine, and that's what makes the car move forward. It was dirty. It was stinky. But it was pure blitz. That man, in that moment, empowered me with kindness and respect. That man was everything that I wanted in my father. Before we departed, he placed his hand on my shoulder and he said, "Boy," he said, "the choices you are making, you're going to end up in jail for the rest of your life, or you're going to be dead." And with wise words and belief, he went on to say that I could be better than this. I could be stronger than this. I had better and more in me. He believed in me in a time when I did not believe in myself. That is the power of human connection that started to change my direction. I've never seen that man before. I have never seen him since. But that one man in that 1 hour changed my life. That was the moment when I decided to disassociate myself with the gangs and the negative people around me. And because of that stranger, I became a mechanic just like him. Human connection does change direction. I'm a living proof. But I'm still associated to gangs. For the past 3 decades, I've been working on our streets with our at-risk youth. I have been working in treatment programs with our most vulnerable kids. I now work in high schools around our community. And more than ever, I believe that our children, your children, are at risk of the gangs, the gang lifestyle, and the drugs, especially the influx of the deadly opioid, fentanyl. These gangs are recruiting our kids at the doorsteps of our schools. They are waiting for the most vulnerable, the ones who are feeling neglected, detached, abandoned. They are waiting for the ones who are dealing with mental health, drug and alcohol issues. They're even waiting for the good kids who lets the guard down for 1 minute. But these gangs are not just at our high schools. They're at the doorsteps of our children's elementary schools, waiting to recruit our little boys and girls too. According to a recent report by the mayor, children as young as 10 years old, that's grade 5, people, grade 5, little children, are being recruited by these gangs, mostly to deliver drugs. A delivery system called the dial-a-dope. This is their introduction into the deadly world of gangs. Now, shooting Shootings are on the increase around our beautiful Canadian province of British Columbia. And we know it's happening right here in our communities. All too often, we wake up in the morning, turn on the TV, or we drive to work and listen to the radio, only to hear of another drive-by shooting or a gang-style execution. Are we becoming too immune to this kind of news that we quickly move on with our day until it's a family member, until it's somebody we know? So the question is, who do we blame for this mess? Who do we blame? Do we blame the politicians who write the laws and the policies? And yes, we must hold them accountable. Do we blame the police and the gang task force who are trying to keep our streets and schools safe from violence and carnage? But they can only do so much without our support and help. Do we blame the educational system? Do we blame the parents? Blame, blame, blame. We can blame all day until the cows come home. Meanwhile, our children are dying by the hands of the gangs. Meanwhile, our children are dying from the drugs. We cannot just sit on the sideline any longer as a community of people and point fingers anymore. We have to start saying something and doing something as a community. So what can we do? What can we all do right here, right now, as a community of people to save the lives of our children? There are 3 things that come to mind. 1, we need to start connecting with our kids, building meaningful relationships. Let's start hanging out with our sons and daughters. Let's get involved in their school life. Us men of the communities, let's get involved in the youth. Let's start teaching our boys how to be real men. Let's teach our boys how to treat women with respect. Two, we can become more open to educating ourselves. Let's go to information sessions and sit down with the experts and let them educate us how to connect with our kids, how to protect our kids from the gangs and the drugs. Let's go home and sit around the table and share that as a family. Open discussions. And share that information with your neighbors and everybody you know. 3. Oh, Lord, I love 3. Lord, help me now. 3. We have to raise the bar of expectation for our kids and hold them accountable for their actions. When our kids come home driving a BMW, and we know they've never worked a day in their life flipping hamburgers at A&W, man, but you're driving a BMW, that's a red flag. When our kids come home wearing designer clothes, they walk into the house flashing more money than we have, that's a red flag. When our kids are hanging out with the wrong crowd, they're skipping class, and the grades are dropping. Please say after me, red flag. Red flag. We don't need a PhD to work with these kids. We don't need a master's degree to work with these kids. We just need to be there for them. They are crying out for our attention. We need to be patient with these kids. I know it's hard. Man, Lord, I have 2 daughters. I used to have hair. Now I'm going bald. Man, now it's going gray. It's hard working with kids. But we have to be there and be patient as much as we can. I work with 45 students in 3 different classrooms. And every morning of every day of the school year, I will make connection with them, no matter what my day is like. Every student will get that human connection fist pump from me. It tells them, I say, good morning, how are you? It tells them that I see you today. It tells them, I care about you. It tells them, I'm here if you need me. And you know the sad part about this? The sad part about this is for some of these kids, that's the only connection they get in their day. Some of these kids don't even get that at home from their parents. Some of these kids don't even get that from their teachers in school. How sad is that? Can you imagine how lonely it must be? Human connection does change direction. And just a little fist pump goes a long way with these kids. They just want to be seen and heard and respected. And if we are not there for them, you know who's waiting? The gangs are waiting. And the gangs are patient. If one stranger can walk into my life for 1 hour and empower me with the wise words of respect, to give me the hope to change my life, can you imagine? Can you just imagine what we could do as a community of people if we all came together and connected with our kids? We just might save more of our children's lives. We may not eliminate the gangs, but if we came together and made that connection with our youth in our community, with our children at home, we just might save them from the drugs and the gang lifestyle. How many more of our sons and daughters do we need to lose before we need to wake up and say enough is enough? People, these are our kids, and they are dying left, right, and center. How many more funerals do we need to attend before we stand here and talk about this again? This is our community, and now has to be the time for change.